Hi, this is Liana, live from Kids in the House. Today we're talking about preschool, a very interesting topic. And I'm so honored to have Barbara Andrade Dubransky. This is her name with a Swedish accent. You are the Director of Family Supports. You're a critical thought leader on parent engagement and a change maker through First Five initiatives. It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about First Five.
Yes, First Five LA, we are advocates for early childhood, the early childhood phase of development, and we work with partners here in LA County to ensure that children are ready to be successful in school and life when they start kindergarten.
And tell me how many kids you serve just in LA.
Well, there are 650,000 children under age 5 in LA, and we interact with families and the children in those families in different ways. So we hope we're touching all of them, some of them more directly, and some of them through public education. Yeah.
That's kind of incredible numbers. And what do you think that does? How does this change these kids' lives?
Yeah, I mean, 30 years ago, we didn't know as much about how the child's brain develops. And so we can't expect parents to necessarily have access to that information. So a lot of what we do is get information to parents in different settings. So when they go to their healthcare provider, or when we ensure that their childcare providers and their preschool providers have a certain level of qualification, have been trained. So whatever settings, and when they go to community-based organizations, how can we bring messages to them about here's what your child's development looks like and how you can support it as a parent. Parents are really the key because we don't interact with children without interacting with parents, and they have the greatest influence on their children's lives. So our interest is in connecting with them.
And with that, we're actually going to welcome some other guests. So with us today, we have child psychiatrist, Dr. Joshua Sparrow, and Deborah from Teach Preschool. And Dr. Sparrow is an incredible expert. He's been on Kids in the House before. He's the director of Brazelton Touchpoint Center at Boston's Children's Hospital. He's a professor at Harvard, and he serves on the American Pediatric Association of Child Poverty Task Force. I'd like to introduce our other guest, Deborah Stewart. She is a private preschool teacher from Indiana whose blog, Teach Preschool, is an incredible resource for teaching young children in classrooms. And you have an incredible following. Millions of people follow your blog and your advice.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Nice to have you. Such an honor. So we're going to start by asking you some questions. Joshua, what I see here as a trend in LA, that people, get very, very uptight about getting into preschool, and they start early with cue cards and coaches. And do you see this trend, and what do you think about it?
I've seen it in other well-to-do communities around the country, certainly wealthy sections of Seattle, the Upper East Side in New York. And I don't think anybody likes it. The children don't like it, parents don't like it. I don't think the teachers and preschool directors like it either. So why do we do it? And I worry that it's all about getting your child into the right preschool, so you get your child into the right private school, so you can get your child into Stanford or Harvard. And I think we have to ask, what's the point of spending 20 years trying to get our child into Harvard when he or she might turn out to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates and drop after a year or two anyway? So I think it's, ultimately it's really about the right school for the individual child. And I don't think flashcards and coaches are the way to get there.
No, I agree with you. And actually, I saw a play once about these parents who committed murder to get the kids into preschool. By preschool. It's a very good play. But anyway, Deborah, what are the things you should look for in a preschool? And when you go and look at that preschool on that tour, what are the questions you should ask? What do you think is important?
Well, I think it's important to go in and observe, if you can, the class in action. And then while you're observing them, you want to look around the classroom and see what's happening. Are children being allowed to play and talk? Do you hear noise? Are the children interacting with one another? Are they interacting with the materials that are out and about in the classroom? Are the teachers talking to the children with a tone of voice that's encouraging and building confidence? And just the overall atmosphere, is it a place that the kids are loving to learn, and you're hearing action? And then look around the walls. Does the artwork represent their own styles of art with different kinds of materials? You just want to see if there's a large and wide variety of materials out for the children to explore and have the freedom to make choices and build their own self-regulation and make decisions and really engage and explore. And definitely you want to see a lot of play. You want to see those kids at play. If they're all sitting at a table being perfectly quiet, that is not what you're looking for. But that's what parents might think. But what you want to see is kids interacting and playing and getting really involved and hands-on with all the materials that are in your room.
Because preschool is a time to develop social emotional skills, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can't do that by sitting still and listening.
One of the questions that we got a lot was, how should conflict resolution be handled in a preschool environment? What do you think about that, Joshua?
I love that question. And I guess the first question that I have is, are we talking about the adults or the children?
Ah, that's funny.
But either way.
Assuming it's the children.
All right. Okay. Well, because I think as adults, we still need to work on it. Either way, conflicts are about life not being perfect. We aren't always going to get along with each other. And when there are conflicts, whether it's among adults or among children, it's an opportunity for learning. And Lord knows we sure need to work on how to get along with each other starting as early as possible. So I guess, again, looking at a preschool, I'd really want to see how the teachers see this. Do they feel that they can face it and turn it into a learning opportunity, or is it something that they're afraid of and feel they have to sweep under the rug? Because this is where children will learn self-regulation. They'll learn how to calm down, how to shift from their negative feelings to constructive focus on where the solutions might lie. And they'll learn how to begin to step outside of their own perspective, to listen to the perspective of the other children. And then ultimately, everybody, each of the children has to share responsibility for looking at the problem again, to see inside of the problem where the seeds of the solution will be.
Great answer. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I think there's also this great opportunity to teach children the difference between their feelings and the actions they take, so that we have an opportunity to empathize with, yes, this makes us feel angry, and then next we choose an action which may or may not be about expressing your anger, so that children understand that how I feel is okay, and don't have to spend time worrying about that when they have to make a different decision about their behavior. So it really, that helps them to, in the future, own their feelings and not judge themselves for the feelings that they have.
I like that. Very good. One of the other huge questions we got from many people was the confusion about different kinds of preschool and what preschool is right for my kid, and how do I even understand. So we're going to hear from one of our parents on this topic.
Hi, I'm Italian, and I'm married with a wonderful American woman, and we have this wonderful kid that is going prepared to be on the preschool, but we have a crazy list here, because I really don't understand how works the system with the schools here. I mean, there is a Reggio, Waldorf, Montessori, creative, cooperative. It's almost that you have to go to school to understand which school you have to send your son, in a way. So it's pretty crazy for me. I need help because I want him to become successful and he go to University of Howard and don't become chef like me.
I identify with you since I'm from Sweden. It's even more confusing. It's worse now trying to get my kids into college. It's even more confusing. So let's hear from our experts. Joshua, how important is it that you pick the right preschool for your child? And, should you how should you confront this issue?
So I think probably what matters the most is the flexibility of the school. And if the school is too rigidly attached to one educational philosophy, it's only going to work for your child if your child happens to be right for that philosophy. And if we're talking about very young children, you may not know yet what kind of approach is going to work best for your child. So you want a preschool that has that flexibility, or you want an approach in which the flexibility is built in?
Great answer. And Deborah, you have more of a play-based preschool. What does that mean?
Well, I think it can apply to any school, but my school is focused on learning through play. So focusing more on building their, rather than an academic learning environment, we're more focused on building through knowledge through all different kinds of avenues and integrating those academics in it. So if a child is building with blocks on the floor, we're talking about height and weight and balance and measurement. All of those components of learning are part of it, but we're not just saying, today we're going to talk about how tall an inch is or 2 inches, or we're going to do it through their play. So it's more meaningful, hands-on, and they can get it, and that sort of thing.
And now, Joshua, all preschools should really be play-based, right?
Right,
it's not the time
absolutely.
to Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. That is how children learn.
Barbara, should academics be brought into preschool?
I agree with what's been said. Is it really needs to be an environment where children are given freedom to play and to learn in an experiential and a curious way. Children's curiosities should be supported in the preschool setting.
So look for a play-based one. And we actually were lucky to sit down with Barbara. She is the executive director in advancement at Association of the Waldorf School. And she is going to clarify to us what a Waldorf school is. And with this, I'd like to introduce Beverly Amico, Executive Director of Waldorf Schools of North America. I'm so honored to have you here to help us understand what Waldorf is.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. So what is a Waldorf school?
Well, a Waldorf school, I'll kind of give you a high level picture of who we are. We've been around for almost 100 years. The movement started in 1919. And our curriculum, I'll say, is based on a threefold integrated approach. One is skill development. So what we think of as math, science, language arts, ABCs. The second focus for us is really a building of lifelong capacities, whether that's courage, initiative, perseverance. And then third, what I like to say is the third part or important part of our curriculum is understanding one's own humanity. So that's really the development of morality, awareness of truth, goodness. So that encapsulates kind of the three aspects of our curriculum.
So how would a preschool, a Waldorf preschool, be different from a regular preschool?
Certainly. So what we know, both based on the early development of the curriculum in the early 20th century and modern day brain research and just the general health and well-being for young children, is that children up through about age 7 learn best really through a self-directed or child-initiated play and very sensory-rich experiences and learning, such as lots of outdoor time. So you walk into a Waldorf classroom, and it's not an academic-based classroom where children aren't being drilled with academic instruction or rote learning. They're really enjoying their education through hands-on, healthy, nurturing play experiences.
That's so interesting that you say that, because this has been your philosophy for I guess, 100 years. But it seems to me like the recent science are really going towards all preschool being very play-based, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're seeing that more and more. And we're also seeing, one of the other things I might point out is we're seeing more and more the detriment for young children of being behind computer screens. So when we talk about modernizing education, we are not talking about a technologically based education. We're talking about a real sensory experience.
And how long do you have Waldorf schools that how far do they go up?
We have Waldorf schools that go up through grade 12. So most of them start at about age 3.5 and go through either 8th grade or high school.
And how many Waldorf schools are there in the United States?
In the United States, I believe there are about 130. We're a continental organization, so I always go by that number in Canada, Mexico, and the US, which is about 170.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and explaining what Waldorf is for us today. And do you have a website or something if people want to find out more information about Waldorf?
Absolutely,
Philosophy,
absolutely.
Where can they learn about it?
Yes, if they go to waldorfeducation.org, that would be our association's website, and it will link you to our schools. It will tell you about our philosophy, and I think that you'll find a lot of very interesting articles there that are tied into the wider educational movement and thought.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
That was very interesting. And we're going to return with some more audience question. Separating. I know myself, I had one child who basically just walked away and, never looked back when I dropped him off. And then I have one child that was like huge issues with separation. And I think separation is a big thing in preschool. So Joshua, how do you prepare your child? You kind of already have a feeling probably that if you have one of those children or not. How do you prepare your child to separate when you start preschool?
So, I think we can pick up on where we left off on some of the earlier questions, which is some of the challenges that you might see with separation have to do with the fit of the school and the teacher and the director with your child. But I think probably the most important thing to start with is your own feelings about separating from your child if it's the first time, and especially if it's your first child. Because even very young children will pick up on their parents' worries about leaving them with people who are essentially strangers. And if you can pay attention to your own worries and then work on those, that will help your child know that if you trust the teachers and the directors, that they can too. And if you're not sure that you do yet, then you need to go spend more time with the teachers and the directors to be sure that you really do feel good about entrusting your child to their care. I know one preschool teacher who during her intake interview says to the parents, okay, so give me your car keys and your house keys. And the parents get really upset about being asked to leave their car keys and house keys. And she says to them, you freak out about that? How do you feel about leaving your child with me? I think
that's funny.
The other thing that I'll just add really quickly is you can prepare your child by introducing them gradually to the school. You don't want it to be a big surprise. So talk about it. Take pictures of the school and look at them together. Go visit the school, introduce your child to the teachers and the director, and maybe they'll even connect you with one of the children who will be there when your child enters and you can begin to have play dates. So the idea is to have a gradual introduction. And that's particularly important for children who tend to be shy or timid because they will be more likely to warm up more slowly and will need more time to get used to a big transition like this.
One of the things that really helped with my child actually was if I went over the schedule and say, what was going to happen, and then I'm going to come back, and we're going in the car, and then we're going to go by the grocery store. So she kind of knew the schedule. It was sort of like a work with her. Do you have any thing to add? I'm sure you deal with this on a daily basis, Deborah.
We do. I think the teacher end can help a lot too. So again, when you talk about choosing a preschool, you want to make sure, one, that it's an area that when you go visit it, I mean, I prefer people to look in their own area and not drive really far so that they can develop networks with families and people in their own area, because the more their child feels connected to other children in the classroom, the more comfortable they're going to be as they go into the classroom. If the teacher has it set up where it's really warm and friendly and there's fun things to do, the child's going to be able to be maybe a little easier to distract because they have something they can go do rather than having to go sit down awkwardly with a group. So there's things the teacher can do on their end, and but I love everything he said, because I would say the same. The more you can ask the teacher to send a picture of her, let her take a picture, and if you can go early and take a picture of her, maybe with you and the child together, so you can talk about it at home and like make her feel like she's just a friend. But it's very important. Trust is going to have to be built, and you have to, as a parent, understand that you need to give that time. As a teacher, I need time to build a bond with your child and have them feel like that they're very comfortable with me, and I need you to trust me enough to give me time to do that and support me in that effort. And if we can work together as a team, and as it was already said, the parent plays a huge role in success in preschool, and that's even with me being able to say, hey baby, let's work together and we'll be friends and we'll make it work, and that's going to take a little time. So you got to give them a little time.
Well, that's great advice. You seem like an incredible teacher.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy it.
I'm sure they warm up to you super quickly. Another topic that raises a lot of anxiety with parents is potty training. And I don't know, what are the rules at the first 5 in terms of children being potty trained? Because I know in the private school, our children has to be potty trained by 2.7 years old. Otherwise, they don't technically get to start. So it causes a lot of stress. So what's the...
So we don't have a policy because what the role we play is we haven't previously funded preschool or childcare settings, and we support the policies that they have. But I would say in terms of from a perspective of how we see early childhood development, we would support organizations, providers being responsive to the child's individual needs to the extent possible. I know in terms of running a childcare center, that's not simple because you have such diversity in terms of what the children's needs are, but we would want a setting that supports the child's development and what's developmentally appropriate, as well as what's unique to that child's temperament and their concerns and their family's concerns.
And I know, Joshua, you have some thoughts on the whole potty training. Can you potty train your kid on a certain schedule?
You can't. This is one of those things that's entirely up to the child. And if you try to impose your own timetable, which is the problem with the cutoff age, it's really likely to backfire because the child will feel your pressure, the center's pressure, and that will get in the way of the child making this their own accomplishment, and that's what it has to be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my son is actually potty training right now, and then the center he's at, what they simply do is there's a room, or there are several rooms, where if the child is still working on that, they stay there. And then if it's fine for a child care center to have an environment where what's going on in that classroom is more conducive to the children already having potty trained, but instead of it being something they have to achieve before something is denied them, that it's, oh, you've achieved this, you're going to move on to the next classroom. And they celebrate it and while letting the child do it at their pace.
That's a really good way of dealing with it. How do you deal with it, Deborah?
Well, there's other things that are in play coming from the educator perspective. When a child isn't potty trained, your school has to meet certain regulations. And so you have to have, for children who need to have diapers changed and that sort of thing, you have to have certain codes met. So you have to make sure you have the diaper changing area and all the hand washing rules and regulations and all of the things and the training that go on with it. In preschools where you're going to maybe look for a preschool where they're part-time and they don't do full day care, then the reason they do that cutoff at age 3 is because when they do a younger group, where they're having to add diaper changing and all of that, it changes the dynamics of what that school has to meet legally to meet the requirements. So it's not because preschools are necessarily insensitive to the fact that not every child is going to come in perfectly potty trained. It's that they also have other guidelines that they have to meet. So just to kind of as a guide, they say your child should be potty trained and by age 3 before they can enter. And then that way, they can afford to make sure that they're meeting and all of the regulations as well. So there's the two sides going on at one time. And in the process, as a child comes in, I have students all the time that come in that are probably borderline, they're they're not in that diaper, and we'll have accidents, and we expect it. I mean, I think most teachers do. They just know, and we're going to help continue to proceed. But if you have a child that comes in at 3 who's never even started yet, that parent just needs to know that they may have to wait in our setting, because we're not legally set up to change the diapers and do that. It changes how many teachers have to be in the room, changes what kind of setup you have to have, it changes what kinds of requirements for health and that you have to meet. So there's a huge impact, and it's a reason why that it's not just because we picked an age, it's because there's a lot of requirements that come along with it.
Well, thank you for adding that perspective. That's,
You're welcome.
Very, very valuable. And, this is not a question from the audience, but it triggered in my mind. Are there rules on what the teacher ratio should be at a preschool?
Yes. If you're a licensed school, you're going to be licensed and then have to follow regulations. But even if you're not, most of us, whether we're licensed or not, understand those ratio rules. And so, for example, if you have a 3-year-old class, you may be allowed, depending on your state, every state has their own rules. So one teacher for every 10 children, and then 2 teachers for every 20, and then you're maxed out. You can't have more than that in your classroom. That would be in a 3-year-old classroom. And then 4-year-olds, I think it goes up to 1 to 12 children, and then 5-year-olds 1 to 15. So, and then 2s is more like 1 to 8 or 7, and then toddler 1 to 5. So it depends on the age group you're taking, but there's definitely a ratio, and that's important because where you can find a school where that ratio is very healthy, where it's 1 teacher for every maybe 8 rather than 10, you're very lucky. But that's hard to find because, it comes, again, there's so many angles. But that ratio is to help manage, a group of children. So if you have children that need changed diapers, even though they're all age 3, and if 2 of them or even 1 of them needs to change a diaper, then the whole class has to operate on a 2-year-old teacher ratio. And so that's why there's just so many dynamics, and it's all intertwined. It's not one simple answer.
Do you have anything to add to that or no?
That's very well covered.
Thank you.
Well, with that, we're actually going to say goodbye to Deborah. And Josh, I'm going to ask you to stay on. We have a few more questions for you. Deborah, I love your Facebook page. There's a lot of great advice on crafts that even a mother can enjoy. And I know you have a tremendous following and impact and a resource for a lot of teachers out there who follow you and bow down to you. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. And I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye, Deborah.
Bye-bye.
And with that, we are going to go to a little skit that illustrates the humorousness or the funniness of all our different parenting styles we have. I love this. It's very funny. So here we go.
That's right. Stretch to the horizon. Reach through Gaia and beyond. Leap with serenity. Leap. Obama, let's save our jumping for when we're wearing our tennies. We really like to inform his impulses with the proper achievement tools. Well, we don't believe in backyards. If you mean the area behind our living space, well, that's where Talunu High, Pepper's Cherokee name, sits in her sand circle and finds her center.
Well, between his mixed martial arts, the future of business leaders of America, and this TED Talk bender he is on right now, Obama doesn't have time for sandboxes.
Pepper, let's remember not to get too close to strangers' chakras. We don't want Obama's bad energy to unbalance us.
You know, Obama, why don't you grab some of that earth and shove it in Pepper Kale's smug little face?
Okay. Pepper, if you want to cry, cry out. Let your feelings pour over you. Express your sadness. Connect to your spirit animal, the hawk. Engage your urges and go ahead. Throw back, sweet pea.
Obama, you dodge that dirt. You use those same reflexes and determination that will get you a full ride at Harvard, where you'll gain your MBA and become a CEO of your own Fortune 500 company.
Pepper, you take that company down. With a grassroots protest, you organize through Drum Circle. Become a spiritual leader who uses the money to create green spaces in the community and have a cistern named after you.
Isn't that funny? I know these people. They're all such an LA too, with a different. Very, very funny. So with that, I'd like to talk some more about First Five. Do you think there are enough early education services for families and infants?
No, there definitely are not. In LA County, we only have 13% of the spaces we need to serve families, working families with infants and toddlers. So we do not have enough.
Wow, 13%. That's crazy. And what are the ratios of people going to private preschool versus public preschool?
I don't have that number. Yeah. So as in not receiving a subsidy for care. I don't know the exact ratio, but what I do know is that the number of families that are eligible for receiving subsidies but don't receive them is also in the teens. It's very low as well.
And what's the average cost of care for preschool in Los Angeles County?
Yeah, so if a child is in a center-based environment, it's about $10,300. If they're in a family child care home, it's about $8,600. That would be the average cost in LA County.
And with that, we are going to introduce another guest, Claudia Miner from UPSTART. And Claudia Miner is the Vice President of Development of Waterford Institute Program Director of UPSTART, a free at-home kindergarten readiness program that prepares preschool-age children for kindergarten. So Claudia, are you with us? And we also have the incredible Joshua Sparrow, child psychiatrist and professor at Harvard, back with us again. So Claudia, we're going to start with a question for you today. What is UPSTART and how does it work?
Well, the Waterford Institute is a 40-year-old nonprofit that was one of the first developers of early learning software. And our software has been used in schools throughout the country and around the world. And about 9 years ago, we began to wonder if that software, combined with a strong parent support model, could actually help prepare children for kindergarten. And I have to tell you, I listened to the first part of the program, and I'm coming from such a different place. I listened to your 650,000 number. I actually work with districts that have 7 4-year-olds. I work with a district that has 7,500 square miles and 225 4-year-olds. And the question is not whether they're going to get into a good preschool or a great preschool. The question is there a preschool even within driving distance? So it's a different model. It works particularly well in rurals. We're not here to replace any site-based options. In fact, we love to partner with other kinds of providers, but we think we are a solution for some children.
Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's a very good point. And that perspective. Josh, are you so passionate about early childhood programs and programs like this? Why? Can you tell us why?
Well, I don't think I ever told you this, Liana, but I was actually a preschool teacher before I went to medical school. So
no, you didn't. Another thing I found out about you.
So there's that for starters. But also, I really worry that so many people still really think about the first years of life as being a time when all children need are to be kept safe and warm and clothed and fed. And of course, all of that is basic to survival, but there's so much more going on even at birth. And I worry that without high quality early education, we are losing the opportunity to protect the future of our country and of our world, because children start learning and growing even before they're born, and so much of it depends on the experiences that they have. And because most parents have to work, we have to ensure that where children are spending so much of their time are places that support their development from the very beginning of life.
And the first 5 years, is it true that that's where most of the brain development takes place, Joshua?
Yeah, absolutely. The brain reaches 95% of its adult volume by age 6. And if you look at slides of brain cells at birth and at 2 years, there's really no comparison. What you see at birth are neurons that are, to a large extent, separate, alone, isolated from each other. And by 2 years of age, if you look again at the same brain, you'll see this dense, intricate, complex web of connections between brain cells. And some of those are because of genetic programming, but much of it is the result of the children's experiences in his or her environment and his or her interactions with caregivers every moment of every day during those first 24 months of life.
So Claudia, if I was a parent in a rural area, how would I use your program? How does it work?
Sure. Well, first, we're going to come to your community and we're going to train you.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that training has to do with your role and how we're going to partner with you. And just as Josh has just said, we know how important those interactions are, but we remind parents and we tell them that they're the ones who have to provide the play opportunities, why it's important for them to do that, how important social emotional is. And then we tell them that we're going to check some other boxes for them, and that's the pre-literacy, pre-math, and science. We share a lot of data with parents because we think they understand data and it really gets them to buy into the program. The children use the program 15 to 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. We drive everything to usage. Every family is assigned a coach. So as soon as you're trained, we're going to send you home and we're going to give you a computer and internet if you don't have one.
Wow.
We're going to call you within 48 hours and we can see if you haven't connected and we'll say what's going on. And if you say the computer doesn't work, we'll say let's get it fixed. And then we're going to call you within the first week and we're going to have a long talk about your family. And we're going to talk about setting a routine. We're going to ask you about other children in your family. We're going to ask if both parents work, what schedule they're working, things like that, so we can drive to a routine. And then after that, you're going to hear from us every Tuesday. You're going to get an email and you're going to get a usage chart. And we've already told you that if you're having problems not hitting the usage, the 75 minutes a week, we're going to give you a call. Those calls are never punitive. They're only coaching. They go back to that routine. What's going on? Should we look at a different time? Things like that. And the other things we use those emails for, again, are the social and emotional. Reminding them, are you making opportunities? Are your children playing with their cousins or the neighbor children, or are you going to a community event? So reminding parents that that is their part of the program. And that goes on for about 10 months. Then we come back to your community in person. We have a graduation party and we celebrate everybody's participation. We survey the heck out of the parents. It takes about 45 minutes for them to do the survey because that's how we make changes in the program, and we change it every year. And then we also assess the children, which we've done at the beginning and at the end. And that's an important piece because we use an online assessment that gives the parents outcomes in about 10 early learning, early literacy skill areas. And parents really like to know at the end of that kind of a commitment what their children do know or don't know. And we give them ideas for things to work with. We've gotten great feedback because we asked the teachers then, you know, if you've had UPSTART children in your classroom, what do you notice? And they notice that they do have a good sense of self-esteem because they do feel ready for school. They participate, they raise their hands, they're leaders in class. So that's how we work, but it's all the parent. It is all the parent. When we first started this program, we had long discussions about, do you motivate the child or do you motivate the parent? And those of us who thought you motivated the child were wrong. You motivate the parent.
It's an incredible program. Just how many people do you serve? How many parents or
well,
families?
This year, we started at 1,300. This year we serve 10,500, which
That's
is
incredible.
about 20% of the 4-year-olds in Utah. We've had pilots in Idaho and South Carolina, and this year we have pilots in Philadelphia, Ohio, and Mississippi and Indiana.
What an incredible resource. Really. And with that, we are going to hear from Carol Dweck. She is from Stanford, yes. And she wrote the book Mindset. And I think almost every book I've written on childhood, somebody quotes Carol Dweck. She's in there somewhere, right? Like everybody quotes her. So Carol Dweck is incredible. And here we go, Carol Dweck, come on.
Telling children they're talented or smart can actually harm them. It makes them think that what you value in them is this fixed intelligence. It makes them afraid of mistakes, and it makes them less eager to learn.
Hi, honey, what are you doing? Are you drawing? Bo! Wow! This is amazing. Did you make this? Look at this. This is like Matisse. Oh my gosh, look at this connection here and this line, and the color you chose is so perfect. I'm gonna have to get you into some special art classes. Oh my gosh, this is incredible, honey. We've got to get this framed. Oh wait, I've got to get your dad to see this. Honey?
Yeah.
Honey? Look.
Super!
Incredible.
So what can you do instead? The answer is to praise the process that your child engages in, their effort, their strategies, their improvement, their learning. And what you are conveying to your child is a lifelong value of improving and learning. Watch their self-esteem rise.
So I'd like to hear from you guys. Do you think that we are overpraising? Sometimes I feel it's also a great way. So especially my son, he likes to live up to the good reputation. Like if I catch him doing something good, it's a lot more effective than try to have rules in getting him to do what I want him to do. What do you guys think about? Are we praising too much today?
Well, I mean, what I'll say, I mean, in addition to everything she said, which is absolutely accurate, you're also taking away the opportunity for the child to reflect on how they feel about what they've done or what they're doing, what they're learning. So to give them the opportunity to express themselves and have their, what they value in that process come out. So I think she's absolutely right.
So maybe I should instead go, how do you feel about the fact that you finished the homework so fast today?
Yeah, or what is it that tell me about what you were saying, you know, what did you have to say when you created this, and why does that interest you, and what else do you want to learn? So it just kind of prolongs the adventure instead of let's stop and evaluate. Just let's keep learning, keep growing. Yeah.
Did we lose Josh? Are you guys
No,
here?
I'm here.
Oh,
I was just listening to Barbara. I think
Josh,
I think Carol Dweck is right. I think that, but I think it's cultural. I think when we say we, I've seen this primarily in white upper middle class families where good job is the most overused phrase of all. And I think it's a misunderstanding of what self-esteem is. Self-esteem isn't thinking you're really great. Self-esteem, I think, is the capacity to recover your basic positive self-regard, which is realistic and not exaggerated, as you go through everyday life and face your failures and face your mistakes and face your challenges. But it isn't thinking you're always great. And I agree with Barbara said about how by overpraising, we interfere with the child learning to evaluate for him or herself how she thinks she's doing, and then to manage the feelings that she has about that.
Very good point. Okay, and I think I love how you say, you got to also. It's not important to think you're great. You have to be able to handle the failures. That's a really good point, Joshua. Claudia, what do you think is important for children to be prepared for kindergarten? What should they get out of preschool? Like, what do they need to know when they start kindergarten?
Well, just about every state will tell you what they think a child needs to know. And we like to have all those boxes checked. But part of that is just having the parent confident that the child is ready too. So we want the child to have a good sense that they're ready to go to kindergarten. We work with the parent to get that. We want the parent to feel that the child is confident to go to kindergarten. So it's sort of a two-part process. On the praise question, I do think it's important, though, to sort of validate accomplishment. And when the children finish our program, when the parents get the children through the program, I think it's important to them, and I think that they feel then that they are prepared to go to school, because from the very beginning, we've laid out, for example, what the Utah expectations are. Utah has a great brochure called Kindergarten, Here We Come. And we spend some time saying, you as a parent, these are the boxes you have to check. These are the ones we can help you check. And when those boxes are all checked, Utah says they're ready to go to school, and you're ready. So I think it's important for the confidence levels to be high, but I think it's also important, as I said, to check all the boxes, because if you see that brochure in about March and your child's starting school in August or September, it can be pretty frightening to you.
So, Joshua, what's your opinion on that? A kid should need to be able to know the letters or read or write when they start kindergarten. What should they know? It's more an emotional development.
I guess what you really want to focus on in the first years are developing the lifelong learning skills. And so that includes things like the capacity to focus and pay attention, the capacity to hold back on impulses. And of course, these are a work in progress for 4 and 5-year-olds, as they are for adults too, actually. But the work begins in these years. The capacity to tolerate frustration, because if you're going to be learning and working on something that is a challenge, you're going to get frustrated. Persistence, to be able to keep on moving through the challenges. The intrinsic motivation, not because someone's paying you to get a grade, but because inside of you, you just want to work on this and you want to know, you want to find out, you want to grow and learn. I think resourcefulness, flexibility, creativity, so that when you are frustrated and you are persevering through a challenge, you can try out all kinds of different creative solutions in order to move through the challenge. I think taking risks is actually important, because a lot of learning really requires that you try things out where you might fail and might make mistakes, and being able to look at your mistakes to see what they have to teach you. I think understanding yourself, understanding other people is really critical, especially in the world that we think we're moving towards, where so much is going to be automated, but knowing how to get along with other people and to have the kind of creativity that happens in teams of people working together is really going to take that capacity to understand oneself and others. And along with that, communication and collaboration. But I wouldn't downplay also having rich, diverse exposure to all kinds of bodies of knowledge, because I worry a lot that with access to search engines, we don't know basic things that we actually need to be carrying in our head and not have living in our hard drive somewhere in order to be able to think through the challenges that we face. For example, I do think children sort of need to know where are countries relative to each other. Maybe not by the time they get into kindergarten. They need to have a sense of how big a country is, or they have to understand what we just heard about rural settings versus urban settings. And if you have to look all of that stuff up, good luck. So I don't think it's either or. I think kids do need this kind of rich exposure to actual knowledge that they can hold inside of themselves, as well as the skills for learning over the course of their lives.
This might be for all of you, actually. How does early education benefit a child later in life? I don't know if you want to start.
An early education setting is a child's sometimes first opportunity. If they have a lot of siblings, they get some of this opportunity before, but to understand what it means to be in a social setting, to cooperate with other people, to understand other people's motivations and what they need out of an experience. So to have reciprocal relationships with people, and then, as Dr. Sparrow said so well, that those executive functions around self-regulation and managing yourself. And I agree, we all as adults continue to struggle with this. So, how do we feel when we have had enough and need a vacation? Children need to have their time to focus and then have their rest periods, or their periods where they don't have to practice that regulation with such intensity. So they need that balance between practicing and resting.
Claudia, do you have anything to add on that?
Well, I really liked what Josh said about, this sort of intrinsic love of learning. And that is, if you can start them on a path to success, they're going to love to learn their whole lives. I mean, I don't know a greater gift anyone ever gave me than to learn to read. It's still what I do, my go-to thing, whenever I have time. And I think that's, what we're putting them on a path to love learning always.
And do you catch things like dyslexia? It's more often caught in kindergarten, right? Preschool, you wouldn't detect those things. Kids that needs extra help. Would you or no?
Not probably as much as dyslexia, but there are delays that can be captured that we would like to be able to notice earlier than kindergarten, so that the child can be supported, because many delays that children have are not necessarily leading to a permanent disability. So we want to be able to identify them and give support to the child and family.
And because the earlier detection, the more you can help, right? Yeah. And Joshua, what do you think about the tendency now to add the third year, to hold people back and make them start kindergarten later? What they call, the gift of the third year, the pre-K, or, all kinds of. Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it depends on what the motivation is and on the child. I think if we're talking about the particular culture that you've been referencing earlier, where so much of the emphasis is on thinking you can get an extra edge on that Ivy League school admission, it could be a mistake, because children who are ready for the next level of challenge may get really turned off by their early educational experience if it's not challenging and stimulating enough. So I don't think an extra year makes sense for every child. On the other hand, what's the hurry if the child still has a lot more to learn from the same kind of experience? There isn't any reason to push them before they're ready. And for those children who've got more to learn in an extra year, it may backfire to rush them through, because if they can't successfully reach beyond where they're at, and they have experiences of failure that they can't overcome when they're 4 or 5 or 6, it can be really hard to help them dare to keep on trying after that. So I think it really matters, as I said, on who the child is, what the learning environment is, and what the parent and teacher motivations are behind the extra year or not.
So look at your child and evaluate from your own child. Let it be based on your child. Well, I really appreciate you Skyping in with us today. Claudia and Joshua, thank you so much for your time. You gave us some really, really brilliant input and advice, and it was incredible to hear about your program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leanna.
And maybe just before you sign off, Joshua, can you just say where they can get a hold of you or see you, or your website?
Well, there's
Except
probably
Kids in
way
House,
too
of
much
course.
on your website, Leanna.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about some of the things we talked about that relate to some of the books that I've written with Barry Brazelton. We actually wrote a book called Mastering Anger and Aggression, and we did talk about conflict resolution. So there's that book, Mastering Anger and Aggression, the Brazelton Way, that I wrote with Barry Brazelton. And then there's another book on toilet training, the Brazelton Way, and we talked about potty training as well. And then in the Touchpoints Birth to 3 and Touchpoints 3 to 6 books, there is also a good bit on how to choose a preschool that will fit who your child is.
They're all brilliant books. I love the book on toilet training. That
all of the Brazelton books, they are so front and center in my personal and professional life. I mean, my passion for this area is really like the Touchpoints is foundational to why I'm passionate about this work. So
it couldn't get any more better plug than that.
Yeah.
That's so good to hear that. I should mention also the website of our center is brazeltontouchpoints.org, but I love to hear you say that, Barbara. And you know, at the heart of the books is really looking at the individual child, listening, observing, and getting to know that individual child, and also respecting the strengths and resources and expertise that lives inside of every parent.
And Claudia, thank you so much for letting us know about your incredible program and for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you just mention before we sign off with you, where's the website people can get a hold of you?
Yes, they can go to waterford.org, or you can write directly to me, Claudia Miner, and it's MINER @waterford.org, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
And you're a nonprofit that people can support, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Leanna.
We're signing
Goodbye.
off. Bye. And we left here with Barbara. And I would actually like to hear from you how we can support First 5.
Yeah, I mean, really what First 5 LA is, our dream is that everyone would be an advocate for children age 0 to 5 and pregnant women. So, I mean, that means, you know, making sure that you're aware of the needs of the population, that you think about it as a citizen and the actions you take as a citizen. So, yeah, just to advocate for children. And that could be, you know, supporting businesses that are supportive of parents. So if a parent goes into business and there's a changing table, things as simple as that, supporting that business. I mean, and definitely using it in how you make policy decisions in your life as a citizen, because these years are the foundational years for human development, and we want to support the adults that they're going to become and be a part of our society. So please advocate for your young children.
Are you concerned about policy changes now? From
absolutely,
you are.
Absolutely. You know, things that we're considering now is changes in, for example, healthcare. People assume that's just about healthcare, which is already a concern of its own, that children and families are able to access healthcare. But there are other services that families receive through our healthcare initiatives, public initiatives. So for example, some of the work we do is we support home visiting at First 5 LA. And one of the ways that home visiting is paid for is through healthcare related dollars. And that really ensures that we can go into homes, and it's voluntary, parents asking parents, would you like someone to come to the home and talk to you about the things you're struggling with as a parent? It could range from supporting breastfeeding to, hey, let's talk about how you can make the environment as safe and enriching as possible for your child. And parents, even, you know, many parents are eager to have someone come to their home. Even those parents who are a little bit concerned, a home visitor will say, well, I'll meet you somewhere else. And when they do, and they become comfortable with that home visitor, they say, please come to my house. This is great. Meet me in my context and help me answer questions, because we know children aren't born with manuals, and parents have many questions. So, you know, there are public resources that are really important to being able to support families in their childcare settings, in their healthcare settings, and in their community, that their community is supportive of their parents, you know, that there's the kind of public transportation that they need to get to places, that parks feel safe and inviting to children and families. So there's so much we can do to support families with young children.
And please let us know if we should get people out to vote, or there's situations with Kids in the House would really like to support First Five and everything you do. So with this, our program is over. And if you like Kids in the House and what you've seen here today, please go and sign up for a premium subscription. $4.99 a month, and I think there's a code that you can sign up for, get a month free or something somewhere, or it will come in. So stay tuned for our next programs, and thank you so much for joining us today. Please let us know what issues you have or problems you want to answer. We're here to solve any of your parenting problems. Over now from Kids in the House. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Parenting is not easy, and you could always use the extra help. Kids in the House has over 500 best-selling authors, doctors, and experts, all at the touch of your fingertips, providing the answers and insight when you need it.
With over 9,000 videos, if you've got a question, Kids in the House has got the answer.
Get instant access today to the premium content parents need.
Oh yeah, we shine like stars.
Be a parenting superstar today by subscribing to our premium content.
Oh yeah, we shine.
Inspire,
educate,
entertain.
Like stars.
Kids in the House.